Well, some of you may be watching the very popular reality series on Netflix right now, which is called Tidying Up. How many of you have seen Tidying Up? Not too many of you. If you're not watching it, you really need to start watching it. It truly is a spiritual experience because the tidying up process is a spiritual process. The show stars a Japanese woman whose name is Marie Kondo, and she comes into people's homes and she helps them tidy up. She helps them declutter and to organize their lives. When Marie first comes into someone's home for the first time, she gets down on her knees and she bows and she says a silent prayer of gratitude to the house. And then she begins the tidying up process. She invites the homeowners to gather all of their belongings into big piles. And then she invites them to take each item one by one and to hold it to them and to ask themselves the question, does this spark joy for me? That's Marie's go-to line. That's her motto or her mantra. Does this spark joy? If the item no longer sparks joy, it's donated or it's thrown away. And at the end of each episode, the homeowners feel so much lighter and freer, so much so that it often brings them to tears. One homeowner told Marie, "You have given us new life." Now, the reason I share this with you today on the first Sunday of Lent is because that's what Lent is all about. It is a time for us, a process for us of tidying up our spiritual life, to get rid of the things that are no longer sparking joy for us so that we can experience new life. Now, that's surprising for some of you because we grew up in the Christian church hearing just the opposite. We grew up hearing that Lent was about giving up the things that sparked joy for us. We were taught to give up things we liked, like chocolate and watching TV and playing outside. We were taught to give those joyful things up because we were told, well, Jesus suffered, so you need to suffer too. But that is not what the season of Lent is all about. The season of Lent is not about giving up the things that bring us joy. The season of Lent is about giving up the things that are keeping us from our joy. I'll say it again because it's really important. The season of Lent is not about giving up things that bring us joy. It's about giving up the things that are keeping us from our joy. So if watching cable news is keeping you from your joy, how about you give that up for Lent? If being on Facebook is no longer sparking joy for you, how about a 40-day fast from Facebook? Because that's what Lent is about. Giving up those things that are no longer bringing us joy so that we can feel lighter and freer and experience new life. Last year during Lent, I shared with you the words of Pope Francis. He was talking about Lent being a time of fasting and feasting. And what he said was, instead of giving up candy this year, he said, how about you give up bitterness, fast from bitterness, and feast on joy? He said, how about you fast from worry and you feast on trust? He said, how about you fast on lack and limitation and you feast on abundance? That's what we want to do during the Lenten season. We want to get rid of all of those things, fast from them, release them, the things that are no longer serving us, the things that are no longer bringing us joy, the things that are weighing us down. The UCC's 2019 Lenten devotional, which we have for sale in the Friendship Hall, On the front cover this year, there's the picture of a suitcase. And the title of the devotional this year is Take Nothing With You. It comes from the words of Jesus where he told the apostles, take nothing with you for your journey. Because the spiritual life isn't about accumulating things. The spiritual journey, the Lenten journey, is about letting go of all of those things. The baggage that is weighing on you, that's dragging you down. So that's the question I want you to ask yourself on this first Sunday of Lent is, what are the things in my life right now that are no longer sparking joy for me? The things that are weighing me down, that I want to let go of, so that I can feel freer and lighter and to have new life. Maybe you need to let go of or fast from your negative thinking, your thoughts of worry, fear, anxiety, doubt, your thoughts that are about lack and limitation, resentment. Maybe you need to let go of certainty, your need to always be right. Maybe you need to let go or fast from having to control everything. Maybe you need to let go of belief systems that are no longer serving you. That's what Lent is about. It's about surrender, release, letting go. And in order for us to do that, we have to be willing to go into the wilderness, as Jesus does in today's gospel. Now, you may say, what is the wilderness? Where is it? I'm not inviting you to go out into the desert or to go out into the forest. I mean, if you want to do those things, great. But the season of Lent is about doing that spiritually. You know, the wilderness is a symbol in the Bible. It's not a literal place. There are almost 300 references to wilderness in the Bible, meaning it's a very key spiritual concept. You know, people like Moses and John the Baptist and Jesus, they all needed to go into the wilderness in order to experience the presence of God and to hear God's voice. And so we need to do the same thing. Now, if you look up the word wilderness in the dictionary, it says that the wilderness is an area that is essentially undisturbed by human activity. Spiritually, symbolically, what that means is we need to go to that place that is undisturbed. And that place is within us. Jesus told us God's dwelling place, the secret dwelling place of the Most High, the kingdom of heaven, is within you. It is that undisturbed place, undisturbed from human activity. Regardless of what's swirling on in the world around you, within you is this place of peace, love, and joy. It is deep within you in the darkness. That's what the wilderness is. It's about going deep within to that place. That's what we need to do during Lent. Jesus did it for 40 days and nights. But again, it's not a literal number. 40 pops up in the Bible all the time. It's not a coincidence. It's a symbolic number. So in the days of Noah, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. We know that Moses had to go up to Mount Sinai for 40 days and 40 nights. And he had to lead the people through the desert for 40 years. And of course, Jesus is in for 40 days and 40 nights in the desert as well. I don't think it's any coincidence that pregnancy is 40 weeks long. Because again, it's a time of darkness in the womb that is preparation for new life. That's what 40 symbolizes in the Bible. It's not a literal number. It's symbolic. It represents a time of spiritual preparation for new life to appear. So that's what this story is all about. Jesus, before he could begin his ministry, had to go within to God's secret dwelling place, and he had to go through this process. Not a literal 40 days, but however long it took in order for him to awaken to this new life. It says in today's gospel that he was wrestling with the devil. So what does that mean? Well, most of us at Douglas UCC, we've grown in our concept of God. Most of us no longer see God as some old man up in the clouds with the long beard who's writing down all our mistakes and is going to punish us. That's childish. Okay? Yet many of us still have this childish concept of the devil. The devil isn't a person. The devil isn't some guy with horns and a pitchfork and a tail. So what's going on here? Who or what is Jesus wrestling with in the desert? Well, it's important for you to know that most of the world's major faith traditions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Native American spirituality, and even Jesus' own religion, Judaism, do not believe in the devil or hell. They don't. These are concepts that came about by the Christian church hundreds of years after Jesus lived. The church fashioned the devil after a Greek god named Pan. Pan, as you know, has horns and hooved feet, and he was known as the god of the wild. So Jesus didn't know that guy with the horns and the tail and the hooved feet. Okay? He wouldn't have had any concept of that. Okay? In Hebrew, the word for Satan means adversary, opponent, stumbling block. What happens to Jesus is that he is facing the voice of the adversary, the opponent, the stumbling block that's trying to keep him from the discovery of the divine within him. And where is that voice coming from? Is it an outside voice or is it an inside voice? Now, I know many Christians believe that Jesus, from when he was a baby, knew he was God. But my question is if Jesus knew he was God already, then how could God be tempted? Why would God have to overcome the devil? Jesus, at the age of 30, is struggling with his ego, with that voice that's trying to have him be all about worldly power rather than spiritual power. He needs to overcome that in order for him to begin his mission as the Christ. So that voice, that ego voice, some spiritual teachers today say that ego is an acronym, EGO, and it stands for edging God out. Because that voice that tells us lies is trying to edge God out. So Jesus, as many of you know in John's gospel, referred to this opponent another way. He described this opponent as the father of lies. Because the truth of your being is that you are holy and perfect in God's sight. The truth of your being is that you and God are one. That is the truth. So the voice within you that tells you the opposite of that is a liar, the father of lies, Satan, the voice of the demon, if you will. Okay? So, what does that voice sound like for you? Maybe it's the voice that keeps telling you, you're not good enough. You're not beautiful. You'll never have enough. You'll never be enough. Maybe it's the voice that tells you that you are separate from God, so far removed from God's love. That voice that you hear in your head is a liar. And it is telling you those things, as the devil tells Jesus in today's reading, to keep you from discovering the truth of your being, that you are beautiful and magnificent, that you and God are one, that the power of God, the divine, dwells within you. Now, our Buddhist brothers and sisters refer to that chatter going on in your head as the monkey mind, because it's like that monkey that keeps jumping around in your head, and it is keeping you from your joy and your peace. So Lent is all about going into the wilderness and to stop feeding the monkey. The monkey that's telling you all of those lies, that's keeping you from your peace and your joy. Stop feeding it and start feasting on God, on that peace, love, and joy that is within you. It's a time for you to let go of the things that are no longer serving you, to release them, surrender them, all those things that are no longer bringing you joy. So that's what I hope that you will do throughout this Lenten season, is I hope you will find time each and every day to spend time in the wilderness, in the desert, which again is that symbolic place of going within. You have to go into the silence in order to hear the voice of God. For as God says in Hosea 2, the wilderness will lead you to the place where I will speak. Namaste.